Welcome to Q&A, Social Security Disability Today. This program is brought to you by the Reeves Law Firm, representing you and your Social Security and disability needs. If you have a problem or questions regarding Social Security and disability, call attorney Anthony Reeves. Here's your host, attorney Anthony Reeves.
Now, question that I had was, what should I do if I've had the same job for the last 20 years? I think a lot of times, the question that was really being posed with regards to this was really asking the question is, for purposes of my case, what does me doing the same job in terms of an impact have it on my case? Actually, depending on the job, it can be very impactful. Now, if you're under the age of 20, under the age of 40, under the age of 50, it's probably not really going to be overly relevant, because in the grander scheme of things, it's helpful to you in the sense that if you're doing a job that had a real high level of detail and skill or exertional level, meaning it was a heavy job and so forth, it might be great if your impairment is one that keeps you from doing that type of work. You can eliminate that job as a job you can do in the future. Because remember, Social Security is looking at, can you do your past work or any other work? Once you hit the age of 50 and above, it becomes more relevant. One, it's helpful to you because if you've only had one job, all the skills and skill that you've acquired flows from that one job, depending on what that job is. Then the second part, which makes it more helpful to you, is because the magical question then becomes, do you have skills from that one job that could be transferred to other jobs of the same exertional level? Let me give you a good example. If you did construction, like you were a concrete builder all your life for the last 20 years and you're over 50, and let's say you got a bad back and you have bad knees and you can't do that anymore, and you're basically restricted to sedentary. Well, guess what? If you can show that your medical condition restricts you to sedentary, they're going to look at your past work of the last 20 years as a concrete worker, and they're going to ask the question, is there any skills from being a concrete worker that can be transferred to either light or sedentary, particularly sedentary? Probably not. So guess what? There's a guideline which we call the Medical Vocational Guidelines, which basically it's a grid model that basically says if you're of a certain age with a certain educational background, certain skills that are or not transferable, and a certain exertional level, you are deemed to be disabled or not disabled depending on how you fit each category. So, look under my example with the concrete finisher. If you're 50 years of age and you have a high school education, your past work was concrete finisher, but you didn't acquire any skills that could be used in sedentary work, and you're restricted to sedentary, under the regulations, you're presumed to be disabled. So the short answer really when asking the question, what does that 20 years do? Well, it does a couple of things. One, it's great because it limits the amount of jobs out there that you can look at to see where you may have acquired skills from doing those jobs. The other thing it does is it gives you a degree of credibility. Think about it. I'm not saying that people who jump from job to job are not credible, but there is something inherently credible about the stability of somebody who stays at one particular job the duration of their career. Most times that's a clear indication that that's a job that they are desirous of having for the long term. And trust me, stable, consistent work is very, very attractive to Social Security. It shows them that you have pretty much, for the most part, been consistent in the type of work you've done over a sustained period of time.